I think so many people, Greg, too, for the layperson trying to wrap your heads around what was the instruction from this judge? What is this jury tasked with right now?
And 55 pages, we just heard Douglas Zader say.
Right, and that's what they're asking now. They've asked to hear back some of those instructions, which is, frankly, it doesn't happen a lot. Usually the instruction period is very kind of dull. You see jurors almost nodding off, saying, hey, we want to hear more about this. It kind of highlights how complicated it can be.
So this, there's some interesting, and the fact that there's no cameras inside, which makes us a little,
I hate it.
We struggle with it.
Right? Don't you hate it?
Trying to have transparency. But as we hear from the people who are reporting from inside the courtroom, so lengthy instructions, and also there's been moments in the trial where the judge has said, jury disregard, or whatever the proper words are, what was said. As a juror, you can't undo what's been said in your mind, right?
That's the trick, and it happens in just about every case. You have objections. The judge will tell you, hey, don't think about pink elephants. Don't absolutely. You got to rule that out. It's pretty hard at that point not to have that picture in your mind. But if they're following the instructions, which it sounds like this jury is trying to do, asking to hear them back and deliberating and going over that, then they're supposed to set that stuff aside.
We try to get any clue as to length of deliberation, who that benefits. I think for a lot of people yesterday, maybe the fact that they didn't come back after 30 minutes and say guilty, you might feel like this jury is doing their job and actually deliberating, having a conversation, going through the evidence, and going to come out with a clear verdict.
Yeah, you could find it one or two ways.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at it on both sides of it. The one thing I tell clients is, if you're trying to tell you, anybody tries to tell you they know what a jury's going to do, they're wrong. Right? Every jury is going to be different. The one thing that we know is that they're doing their job. Right? They're spending their time. They know that the stakes are high here. They know this is the former president of the United States. And so they're spending their time, I think, going over all of the evidence, hearing the instructions, and talking about it.
What is the so there's been some talk, and Doug Zader referred to this, that there are so many counts to consider, but the jury can select upon which of the
if 4 people think he's guilty of this, if 4 people think he's
election interference. I think specifically there's different tiers of it, and you can kind of pick one. Right.
So there's a bit of confusion about it.
Yeah.
So it's a criminal trial. It's got to be unanimous. All 12 jurors have to agree.
Okay.
And there's 2 counts, or basically 2 elements to the falsifying business records in the first degree.
Yeah.
First, that Donald Trump entered or caused somebody else to enter a false record. But second, that he did so with the intent of committing or concealing another crime. So the jury has to be unanimous on that, but they can get to that different ways. So a third of the jury might look at it and say, well, we think that this is election interference. A third of them might look at it and say the underlying crime is tax fraud or other false business records. And so they don't have to all get there the same way, but they all have to get there. It still has to be unanimous.
That was that 444 charge that was so confusing yesterday, I thought. If 4 people think you're guilty of this, and 4 people think you're guilty of that, and 4 people think you're guilty of that, that's the unanimous verdict. We don't have to agree on what you're guilty of. We have to agree that you're guilty of a crime.
Well, they have to agree that you're guilty of first-degree false business records, but they don't have to agree as to exactly the underlying crime that was the attempting to.
You said it better than I did.
I got you. No, that was a good explanation, actually. Okay.
And then again, this is so unprecedented. What would the process be if we do get into a situation where we are going to a sentencing? How he's able to appeal that?
Well, that's one thing we can guarantee, that there will be an appeal.
For sure.
And most likely the defense will ask for a stay or break in the sentencing procedures while that's happening. And that might be considered, considering there's an election. But if it just goes to sentencing, then the judge is going to look at all the factors and make a decision as to what the appropriate punishment should be, whether that is probation or a slap on the wrist, or all the way up to jail time, which has its own complications.
Interesting. Wow. I've never been on a jury, but I do feel like once you get in the box, it's a lot different to maybe have a preconceived notion about somebody for or against. Doesn't matter. It feels like when you get in that box, you're sitting in the jury, you do take that very seriously, I would imagine. Is that your experience?
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
I think it's
That's
the
the
best
goal.
way of
Yeah.
resolving
Yeah.
things.
Right.
I mean, I'm a little biased as a trial lawyer, but,
Sure.
but generally speaking, you note that people get in there, they start really paying attention,
Do
they
the
buckle
best you
down.
can. Yeah.
And you talk to people afterwards, and you really hear that different arguments or evidence that really resonated with people. They pay attention to what they're doing. They take it serious.
That's absolutely.
All right, well, we appreciate you. This has been a complicated case to follow. So as we reach the end of it here, thank you.
Absolutely.
Well
Thank you.
done. Very good.